Hi there, my name is Matti Sulanto. I'm a photographer based in Helsinki, Finland, and this is the Lumix GH5s, known for its awesome video performance. But today I mounted my favorite street photography lens on it, the Leica 50mm f1.7, of which, by the way, I have a separate review. If you're interested, I'll put a link below. And in this video I'm gonna find out if this camera is any good for photography. This camera is not mine, it's on loan from Panasonic, but I'm not getting paid for doing this. I just do this so I can share this with you guys. So this camera is really awesome in video. One of the best micro four thirds video cameras there is, and it even rivals some full frame cameras. But does any of that awesomeness transfer to stills? This only has 10 megapixels. But let's be honest, when did you last really need more than 10 megapixels for other than your own pleasure and pixel peeping? If you're like me and you publish most of your pictures online, I think your final image size is more in the neighborhood of 3 megapixels than 10. Yes, I know more megapixels allows you to crop more, but let me tell you this, if you need to crop a lot all the time, I think you should learn how to compose and frame your shots a bit better. You shouldn't need to crop a lot on a regular basis. And this camera has a 14-bit RAW capture, which at least in theory should allow you to capture better tonality and the full dynamic range of the sensor. But hey, let's take some pictures and see what comes out. Alright, that went well. This really handles like a normal GH5. I even like the viewfinder better than on my G9. It's easier to see with glasses. There's no IBIS, that's a downside for me. Of course, you don't need an IBIS on a bright day like this, but it limits your ability to use long shutter speeds handheld. The autofocus is really fast, and this really doesn't feel any different from a regular micro four thirds camera, even though this is more like a video camera from the beginning. But anyways, now let's make some more pictures. I don't like to do lab tests because they are boring and they're so easy to screw up. One little mistake and you have to start everything all over again from the beginning. However, I made a test shot in my office and compared this camera to my G9. It's just a simple test shot, very high contrast scene that works well for test purposes. I shot RAW and developed the raw pictures in Lightroom. I used two ISO settings, ISO 200 and ISO 6400, because those are the low and high limits on my G9 for the auto ISO. Because the scene is so high contrast, I pushed the shadows and pulled the highlights in Lightroom to see how much highlight recovery there is and what happens in the shadows when you really push them. At ISO 200 I found out that the G9 is slightly better than the GH5s. The shadows are cleaner, the GH5s shows some banding in the shadows, nothing extreme, but it's clearly visible. When I moved to ISO 6400, first of all I realized the G9 image is a little bit darker than the GH5s image, so I had to adjust the shutter speed 1/3 of a stop to make the image brightness similar on both cameras. When I pushed the shadows and pulled the highlights, I realized right away that the GH5s is the better performer here at ISO 6400. The shadows are really noisy, of course, but still the color information is still there. But when we look at the G9 image, we realize that there's like a green veil over the whole shadow area, and the image is even more unusable than the GH5s image. But I have to say, these settings are insane. You would never use these kind of settings for this image in real life. You would use ISO 200 and get a nice, clean, usable image. I just wanted to use these settings to see what happens at higher ISO in extreme situation. I also found out that the 14-bit RAW on the GH5s is clearly better than the 12-bit. As you can see from this image, the shadow area looks much better in the 14-bit capture than in the 12-bit. If you own this camera and use it for photography, I think you should definitely use the 14-bit RAW. There's no penalty using that. The file size is the same and the camera doesn't slow down or anything there, so there's no reason not to use the 14-bit RAW. But enough of this, and now let's make some more real pictures. And by the way, if you want to see a full image quality test of this camera, go to DP Review. I put a link below. They have a proper lab test where you can also compare this to other cameras. My conclusion is that it doesn't make sense to buy the GH5s for photography. I would really miss the IBIS, and despite of what I said at the beginning, I prefer 20 megapixels over 10. It's sometimes nice to zoom in and have a look at the details and maybe crop a bit every now and then. But this works for photography, no question about that. It's nice to use. Autofocus is fast, it's weather sealed, it has double card slots, it's really well equipped. I think if you are a video shooter and you own this camera, there's no need to buy another camera for some casual photography. But then again, I suppose if you have this, it's mounted in a rig or cage or something, and maybe it's not that practical to remove it for a few casual snaps. What about you? Have you used the GH5s for photography? Please let me know in the comments below and tell me about your experiences with this camera in photography. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.